Yo, what is up, guys? XRP is at $1.09 right now. CoinMarketCap. Our first tweet comes from the Crypto Squire. Clarity Week, Washington is moving. The White House meets today, and tomorrow Congress takes center stage with a hearing focused on the Clarity Act and financial innovation. Every step brings regulatory clarity closer for XRP and crypto. Our next tweet comes from Crypto Barbie. Massive news: BlackRock CEO Larry Fink is highly bullish on the crypto market over the next 12 months. Rumors are that BlackRock will tokenize assets on the XRP ledger and launch an XRP ETF as soon as Clarity gets signed. Let's watch this video.
I was always worried about the leverage in Bitcoin and crypto. There was too much leveraged players in it. That's why we had the washout, and I think there's more stability at these levels here. But no, we don't see that much implicit leverage. For the scale of the capital markets today, the leverage is not as large. I mean, that doesn't mean there's not pockets. But no, as I said in my prepared remarks this morning, I'm very bullish on the markets over the next 12 months. I think the technological revolution is going to power better margins for more companies. I mean, think about BlackRock. We've raised our margins increased by 260 basis points over the last 12 months. A lot of it is using more and more.
Smash that subscribe button and hit that like button if you believe XRP will reach $3 again this year. Our next tweet comes from Zafe Crypto. Today, Trump plus senators meeting at the White House to hash out the ethics provision, the last real roadblock before a Senate floor vote. Tomorrow, House Financial Services Committee takes it to New York City. What do you think drops tomorrow? Our next tweet comes from Smoke DQG. Fireblock's institutional crypto adoption is happening with or without the Clarity Act. Most people are watching Polymarket odds to decide whether the Clarity Act will pass or fail. Institutional investors are not reacting the same way. According to Fireblock's institutional capital entering crypto is not slowing down despite the massive swings in Polymarket data. They also confirmed that the current regulatory environment is not driving institutional liquidity or innovation offshore. Large traditional finance firms are continuing to build digital asset infrastructure in the United States. Institutional capital is increasingly comfortable building on blockchain rails in the US before the Clarity Act reaches final passage. Listen closely, let's watch this video.
Just yet. And joining us to discuss the developments further in the global legislation is Dea Markova, Policy Director at Fireblocks. Dea, thank you so much for joining us. I guess we could start with that. With the U.S. Clarity Act stalling, what's the first real market behavior change that you're seeing when it comes to institutions on the ground?
Thanks for having me. I don't know if we see a massive change of behavior, right? So I think when we're having the same conversations about Genius, it was about the US sending a signal to the world that the economy is ready for digital asset adoption and putting the dollar on chain. With Clarity, it's different. On one hand, we strongly believe that it will put the industry on a much more substantial legislative footing and regulatory clarity. On the other, a lot of these decisions have already been made at an agencies level. So we don't see a slowdown in terms of our client interest, institutional client interest in digital assets adoption.
Do you think that this regulatory delay is pushing liquidity and innovation and maybe even infrastructure decisions offshore, or do you think that's a little bit of an overstatement?
I think it's a little bit of an overstatement. I think that commercial activity is never only determined by a regulatory decision making, right? So the U.S. is highly energetic, very well financed market. So we don't see institutional activity moving offshore just because there's ups and downs on whether Clarity was at 60% or 50% or 40%.
What are you seeing?
Our next tweet comes from Crypto Barbie. Clarity Act news. Ripple CLO Stuart Aldradi urges support as Trump to meet senators today. Our next tweet comes from Crypto Barbie. Huge news. Senator Cynthia Lummis says, "We are ready. We are introducing in the next few days to get this bill across the finish line. Clarity is coming." Let's watch this video.
Well, it's taken us virtually every day for the last 10 months to get this bill in the condition it's in today, and we're ready. So we will be introducing in the next few days. We're going to be in session now for 4 straight weeks. It's very important that we get this bill across the finish line before the August recess begins, so we can make the markets aware of the stability that will be provided to them if they remain onshore in the United States to do business. This is a pivotal time for the industry, and we want to meet their needs. We also want to meet the needs of law enforcement with regard to preventing illicit finance and provide consumer protections. We think we've accomplished that goal with this bill. It's been arduous, but we're ready for prime time.
Absolutely. So is it fair to say this bill will be on the Senate floor the week of July 20th?
Well, I expect it'll be that week, but considering the important things that we have to deal with in these 4 weeks, Senator Thune will make the final decision about which week to bring clarity to the floor. We're voting today on the motion to proceed to the National Defense Authorization Act, and as you know, we've got issues with Save America to deal with and other things as well. But Senator Thune is well aware of the importance this bill provides for market stability for digital assets. So I think he'll schedule it this 4-week period.
Our next tweet comes from the Crypto Squire. Consumer Protection, Ripple's head of global policy, Lauren Believe, says voting against the Clarity Act is a vote against consumer protection. She says clear rules protect investors and help stop bad actors. Regulatory clarity matters. Our next tweet comes from Smoke DQG. DTCC ISDA webinar reveals key details behind the 2026 tokenization rollout plans. Watch. Let's watch this video.
Great. And then you mentioned this is like there's a pilot phase going on, right? So there's a timing angle to this. Perhaps you could say a bit about what you see as being the phasing of this project.
Yeah, so we're expecting to have our first launch in early Q3, and that first launch will be limited in scale, both in terms of numbers of assets and numbers of participants. We'll do it will be a live pilot, and it will be doing it in a way that we make sure that everything happens appropriately and in a controlled way. From there, our participants will have more access to our testing environments throughout the summer, and then we're expecting a phased rollout from into the fall, so October, and then beyond towards the end of the year. And through that phased rollout, we will increase the amount of assets that will be available. So on day one, it will be a very narrow set of assets just to verify that the process works in production. And then we will add the numbers of assets, meaning that we won't go from 0 to 1,000. We'll probably go from 0 to 20 and 100 and then beyond. And again, really just to maintain that control framework to make sure that everything's working properly, so the volume can be scaled in a way that's controlled, and that our members have, and the market has the opportunity to both see how it works, see how things interact, develop their frameworks and structures, because we really are doing this in parallel. What we're building and the market is building, again, wallets and policies and procedures and all those kind of things that need to be done. So it will happen over time, gradually throughout the, I would say, the end of Q3 into towards the end of the year, and then from 2027 we really expect to ramp up.
Very exciting. That's great.
Our next tweet comes from Swift. Not all cross-border payments perform at the same level. Some move at speed while others still face delays, friction, and hidden costs. Just like in football, the difference comes down to strategy and planning. Our payment optimization playbook reveals where payments are performing well and where there is still room for improvement at the last mile. Because the first step to improving the game is assessing current performance. Our next tweet comes from Crypto Barbie. It's a step forward when you're switching from a horse buggy to a Ferrari. There's ways we can work with Swift, XRP. Let's watch this video.
I do think what has happened at GPI is a big step forward. For 40 plus years, we had a construct around how cross-border correspondent banking worked. It worked, but it had a lot of limitations. We're seeing that move forward, but I think it's a step forward when you're switching from kind of, if I may, horse and buggy to, hey, can we make the horse and buggy go faster? Sure, but if we can actually just move to a Ferrari, let's do that.
So you've said before that you think there's a world where Ripple could take over Swift.
Well, I've also said I thought there was ways we could work with Swift.
Let's talk about that.
Our next tweet comes from Crypto Barbie. Just in, T. Rowe Price has just rolled out their very first crypto ETF. The holding includes 9.37% XRP. Our next tweet comes from Crypto Barbie. Huge. Fed Chair Kevin Warsh has just said that the Genius Act will be fully rolled out across US banks in the next few days. We are racing to put that out by the deadline this Saturday. It's happening this year. Let's watch this video.
A year ago on Saturday, the Genius Act was signed into law. And with that, a series of deadlines for rules to be promulgated began, and the clock began to tick. You came into your job confirmed approximately 2 months ago. The deadline for the Fed to promulgate rules is this Saturday. Will the Fed meet that deadline?
Well, it's a fair and open question. I have been corrected. I've not been in the job 6 weeks, but 7. We're racing to to put that out by this deadline. I'll just add one other thing, Congressman, without taking too much of your time. I think rulemakings from the bank regulators are best when we have a family fight between and among us, so that there would be one proposed rulemaking for comment. It might not be exactly true this time, but that's my objective, that we'd be coordinated in issuing our rulemakings at the same moment.
I appreciate that. I think from this body, I think there's a huge opportunity with stablecoin in particular to make sure that consumers are protected. That was one of the drivers of us passing that legislation. There's a lot of work to be done. You're new in your new role with the Fed, but we would like to be updated if, in fact, that deadline is not made. And then, in fact, when those rules will be promulgated.
Real quick, if this helped, press the like button. It tells YouTube to show this to people who want the truth, not hype. And press the subscribe button if you're done being sold the moon. I've already got your next one right here. Go!